Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be reacting to anime. Let me show my face. Your princess, the cutest girl in the world. And do you like my outfit? So without further ado, let's get started. So let's go straight to
Our manga begins on a rainy night with news of a heavy thunderstorm about to hit the city. The heroine of the story, Lin Huan Han, who we will call Lin for short, was your average 20-year-old girl who just got back from work. She had just reached home, tired from overtime, and quickly slipped into
what
the
are
bath.
those? What are
Lin felt
the
more
millions?
relaxed as soon as she did, but little did she know that her life was about to change forever. As she fully submersed her body into the bath, inhaling deeply and getting more comfortable, the sound of thunder made her lift her head out of the water, and as soon as she did, she started panicking because she couldn't reach the bathtub's floor. When Lin finally found her footing, she was shocked, seeing she was now in the middle of a lake in the wilderness. She thought she was dreaming and pinched herself to confirm if it was so, but unfortunately this was real. She questioned if she happened to transmigrate, but our heroine is now shivering from the cold, given that she's buck naked. Usually, when people get transmigrated to other places or worlds, they're at least equipped with a few magical tools or several pieces of equipment, which made Lin think how unfair it is, since not only does she have nothing, she's naked too. But Lin suddenly got distracted from her thoughts when she heard an animal howling from a distance, which scared her. Scared that a wild beast may come to attack her anytime, she tried what many others did. Closed her eyes and hoped she'd return to her bathtub as soon as she opened them. Little did Lin know that a figure had been observing her from a distance. While our heroine is still submerged in water, praying she'll be back home, she opens her eyes to see a pair of feet that are not hers with muscular thighs and legs. But what really shocked Lin was the huge package she saw just above those thighs. She immediately raised her head from the water, and as soon as she did, a firm hand grabbed her waist, lifting her out of the water. In front of Lin is a handsome man with a lean but muscular body and flowing white hair. Lin could only think to herself, where did he come from? The white-haired man thought how he had never seen such as cute and pretty female, so he asked our heroine which tribe did she come from. On the other hand, Lin is scared at the man's sudden appearance and asks him to let her go. Furthermore, she discovered that the huge package she had seen earlier actually belonged to this man. She started calling him names, flailing as she did so, and demanded that he put her down. Lin even threatened to call the police and told the man to wear some clothes, but seeing her reaction, the man wondered why our heroine was crying. He tried reassuring her, saying he would not harm her, and told her not to run. Hearing this, Lin told him again to put her down, and no sooner than he did, our heroine started splashing away from him. Unfortunately for her, our heroine is too slow, and the man catches up to Lin in just a few moments. Since she's back at his side again, Lin tells him to wear clothes, and if he doesn't feel shy since he's naked. The man answered that it was because he was bathing, which is why he had no clothes, and returned the question to Lin. Our heroine hates admitting it, but he's right and wishes she had some clothes. As soon as she thought that, a towel appeared behind her, at least providing our heroine with some coverage. But before she could wrap it around her body, the man moved closer, calling her little female, and asking where her male was. Lin was confused when she heard these terms, but the man only said that he was a male and Lin was a female and that they could be mates, which is pretty common knowledge. Once again, our heroine is shocked and scared, wondering just what kind of world she transmigrated into, then asks the man what kind of male he is. To this, the white-haired man only said he was the White King, and immediately shapeshifted into a majestic white tiger. Seeing the man transform into a tiger beast, Lin lost consciousness from shock, but before she did, she hoped she would wake up from this nightmare. And that's when she heard a sudden ding, and a voice in her head confirming that she, Lin Huan Huan, was a guest, and was uploading information. As soon as the information was uploaded, the voice welcomed her to system hash 438. The next thing she knew, Lin found herself holding something soft, like a fur blanket, and that's when she heard a voice ask if she was already awake. Her eyes instantly widened at this, and she realized it was not a fur blanket, but a tiger's fur. Before she could reply, the white tiger told her to hold on tight so she won't fall and asked how she was feeling. Our heroine only answered that she was cold since she still had no clothes and it was extra chilly with the wind blowing on her back. The tiger stopped and shifted to its human form with Lynn in his arms. He quickly jumped to a nearby tree and told Lynn to wait as he gave her his hide and a blade. Suddenly, the man jumped and shifted to his beast form again while scouring the area. Our heroine could only observe from above, and that's when she noticed that he was targeting the wild boar from nearby. Suddenly, the white tiger lunged at the wild boar, who tried to run away from the majestic beast, but with no success. Lynn was impressed at the White King's strength and bite, and she couldn't help but compare that even her physique was not a big enough bite for him. As soon as he was done subduing the boar, the White King shifted to his human form again and told our heroine to come down, but Lynn was frozen in place up on the tree. She was scared that she might break her neck if she jumped down, but the White King just wondered if she's scared. His growing list of concerns for Lynn made him think about how he could take care of a weak female. Since she refused to jump down, he decided to come up on the tree and then carried her back down. Now that she was down, the White King asked Lynn for the bone knife and started skinning the boar with precision. In no time,
Her
he
butt's
finished
flat.
and gave the hide to our heroine to keep her warm. Just then, a voice in her head told Lynn that she had successfully acquired the boar hide, triggering a new mission. This time, the voice told our heroine to collect 3 more hides. If she managed to do so, she would be rewarded with a gift pack. Since Lynn was standing still, listening to the voice in her head, the man approached her and asked worriedly what was wrong. But our heroine quickly told him everything was fine, while White King found her cute with how she was flustered. White King told her he would buy her clothes once they got to the Wolf Tribe settlement, adding that the place wasn't far from there. He also said that this is where he usually trades or buys things. When Lynn heard this, she compared it to a village, but the white-haired man had no idea what she was talking about. He only knew settlements and towns. Upon hearing this, Lynn asked him if there were no towns here or humans, to which the White King answered negatively. He added that beastkin, powerful and fierce creatures, built all the settlements here. As he explained this, he also offered Lynn to take her there. But all Lynn could think about was that there were no humans in this world, and is only populated by beastkin. Changing the topic, White King offered her raw meat from his hunt, but our heroine scurried away at the sight of it, saying she couldn't eat it, even though the man told him she needed to replenish his energy. Since she won't eat it, White King left her side for a while and returned with fresh berries. Lynn readily ate the berries, thanking him as she did, which prompted the white-haired man to ask if she was a herbivore. Since she can't tell him that she's a human, Lynn just tells him she's an omnivore. Hearing that she's an omnivore, White King asked why she won't eat the meat he offered, but Lynn explained that she doesn't eat raw meat, but cooked ones. White King already thinks she's too weak and plans to feed her more meat, but he only asks Lynn how to cook meat. Our heroine thought that since she didn't have any pots or pans, she needed fire at least, so she told White King. At the mention of fire, the white-haired man frowned and thought that fire was destructive and terrifying to beastkin, so he offered to look for tinder so our heroine could start a fire by rubbing the sticks together. But after trying to ignite it for the next 40 minutes, Lynn threw the objects on the ground, frustrated and angry since it was not how she thought it would go. The White King was quick to soothe her, holding her calloused hands and telling Lynn she would help him find tinder. He's promised to take care of her and find whatever she needs because this man declared that our heroine is his female, so he'll take care of her for the rest of his life. Lynn quickly pushed White King away, telling him she was not anybody's female, but the man only gazed at him fondly. Despite Lynn's declaration, White King assured her she'll always be safe as long as he was around. He grabbed her hands and kissed them, saying he would ensure she was healthy. This effort made our heroine think that this beast man is strong but gentle, which made her relive her childhood memories. Lynn's parents passed away at a young age, and from there she was taken in by her uncle. Despite being blood-related, Lynn never felt at home in his place, but it wasn't that bad either, so she only had herself. Growing up, our heroine became used to being alone, with no one to protect her. As our heroine thought of this, White King felt for Lynn's hands, and once he knew she was cold, he did his best to warm her through his embrace. Now in White King's arms, Lynn can't help but think this is the first time she ever felt so cherished since her parents died. This kind of affection makes Lynn compare it to how one cares for their family, something she never thought she would experience from a beast man. Soon enough, the two continued on their way with White King in his beast form as Lynn rode on his back. Along the way, White King told her that he would take her to the wolf tribe's healer, but our heroine
Guys, I'm gonna
reasoned that
get
she was
another
not sick at
one.
all. In response,
This is her as a kid.
the beastkin asked him why she fainted earlier, but in her mind, Lynn said that she couldn't really say out loud that White King scared her. Moreover, White King also said he would never leave her side, no matter what kind of sickness she has, because Lynn is his female. Being called that again, Lynn could only give a dry laugh in reply. But then she remembered that she had a mission and asked him if he could retrieve 2 more hides for her. White King readily did what she asked and more. He collected 5 hides for our heroine in an hour. After that, he shifted to his human form and offered to clean Lynn's hides. As he transformed, our heroine noticed that White King got hurt while retrieving the hides, though he told her it didn't hurt much. Still, Lynn felt bad and gently touched his injuries. And as soon as she did, White King started licking and rubbing her like a kitty. Moreover, he told our heroine again that there's no need to thank him since she's his female, and he'll do anything for her. After that, White King left to clean his wounds and get rid of the scent, and when he went, a voice sounded in our heroine's head. It's the same voice from before telling her that she completed the mission and will be receiving a gift pack. And out of nowhere, a cloth bag appeared in Lynn's hands. Lynn opened the cloth bag and saw it contained a hollow stick, much to her disappointment. But suddenly she realized what it was, a fire starter stick. With this, she can now make a torch. Lynn scanned what else was inside the cloth bag to see a book titled Encyclopedia of Ancient Animals and Plants, Part 1. But before she could skim through the book, she heard rustling sounds and thought White King must have
There's
returned,
part
so
2.
she
I
quickly
was
hid the
wondering
book.
where's part
White
2.
King quickly notices that she's trying to hide something, but he just lets her be, thinking that our heroine will eventually open up to him and share her secret as time passes. They continued their journey until the two finally reached the wolf tribe. Lynn was shocked at how crowded and lively the settlement was, while White King explained that they host a marketplace every 10 days at the bottom of the Rocky Mountain. There, beastkin from different areas would bring their own goods to exchange for others depending on their needs. Since Lynn is pretty small, White King decided to carry our heroine over his shoulders, warning her that females are rare, so if she was discovered, there was a high chance that trouble would ensue. Curious about what kind of trouble, she asked him, and the beast man answered that they would fight to be her mate. As if on cue, Lynn heard someone cry out to another person not to leave them. The pair turned their attention to the voices to see a beast man on his knees, trying to appease a female, while many others of his kind were already trying to win her over. Seeing the female swarmed by many beast men, White King continued explaining that it's common to see 10 wolf males surround a female since she's rare. Moreover, females are regarded in a high position in the wolf tribe even without giving birth. The mere thought of being surrounded by men scared Lynn, but White King only continued on their way to see the wolf tribe's healer as the other beast men looked at the pair. Just then, a silver-haired wolf beast man called Frostcloud turned in their direction. He was shocked to see White King in the settlement, accompanied by someone since he had known the white-haired man for being a loner. Finally, they reached the home of the wolf tribe's healer, Lungju. The old beast man greeted White King, asking the younger man what brought him here, and that's when the latter requested Lungju to look at his mate. Hiding behind White King, Lynn looks over to Lungju, thinking he looks like Santa Claus as White King told the healer that she had fainted earlier. Once he heard White King mention mate, Lungju quickly leaped from his position to see that it was indeed a young female mate. He asked out Heroine in a rush how many mates she had, but White King firmly told him that she was his female and not to get any funny ideas. The old man was pissed that White King managed to snag a female for himself, whereas the male beastmen from Longju's tribe were too many that had no females. Because of that, there's so much bloodshed to acquire a female. As the old man continued to vent about his tribe's problems, our heroine couldn't help but notice how melodramatic Longju was. But just as quickly, the healer turned his attention to Lynn, asking why she had fainted earlier. After Longju hears what our heroine has to say, the old man tells White King that there's nothing for him to worry about since she's not too sick. She's simply weak and needs proper care. The healer then gave her a handful of crisp
stick
golden
of
fruit
vine.
as
It's
a
a
welcome
vine.
gift to
Yes,
munch
it's a
on.
vine.
As he handed these to Lin, Longju
It's a
also told our
vine.
heroine that there are many more things the wolf tribe has to
You
offer.
don't mind
Then
the
leaned in
vine,
closer to her to
right?
add that the male beast men in his tribe are not only handsome, but gentle and passionate as well. Then asked her if she wanted to stay for a few more days to meet them. But our heroine was already looking over White King,
Water
who was standing
is in
silently
this.
behind
My
her and
water
emitting a
bottle.
threatening aura, making her decide to do what the white-haired man wanted.
See,
Longju was still talking about the males in his tribe when White King decided he had enough and snatched Lin into his arm, telling the old man that he could care for her by himself. Thinking that the healer has a lot of funny ideas, White King decided to take their leave and told Lin that they would buy clothes since he felt that our heroine is quite mindful about being naked. Soon enough, the pair saw a couple of hides being sold, and White King told our heroine to buy whatever she liked. After choosing a piece of leather she wanted, Lin asked White King to wait as she tried to change into it. But a couple of moments later, our heroine peeked from where she was adjusting to ask for a needle and thread, since the garment was too big for her. She was given stone needles and a hemp thread, which are pretty crude, but at least it's better than nothing. Remembering that her hair tie has a metal pin, she decided to use this on her clothes. While outside, White King asked the wolf beast man if he had small clothes for Lin. As he said this, he presented a crystal coin to the wolf beast man, who was more than happy to let them choose whatever they wanted from his sale, since his payment was enough to cover all the clothes in his stuff. Just then, Lin's voice said she was done, prompting both beastmen to look in her direction. Lin stepped out from her changing area, wearing customized clothes to fit her body. As soon as the two
you
beastmen
are
looked at her, the
so
wolf beastman started to howl. He was
cute.
pleased with what he saw, while White King was too stunned to speak. The latter complimented our heroine on how good she looked and asked how she changed her clothes into that. Then she said she altered them because it was too big. Then she asked if the shop also had shoes, asking White King if their feet don't hurt walking barefoot all the time. As she said this, White King looked at her bruised feet and thought she had delicate skin, which is why her feet were like that. Hearing this, he asked the wolfman for another set of thread and hides, which the salesman obliged and quickly gave to our heroine. Lin couldn't help but think White King is thoughtful and attentive to her needs, even if he doesn't talk much. It made her think that she was not afraid anymore with him at her side, despite Lin not knowing why she was transported into this world in the first place. As the pair was about to leave the wolf tribe settlement, a wolfman caught up and invited them to Langju to visit the healer's home. White King immediately rejects his invitation, thinking that it's pretty dangerous for Lin to stay in the settlement, since the wolf tribe has 300 males with less than 20 females, and that the old man plans to make Lin choose more male mates. Without so much a word, White King turned away from the wolfman who invited them, which made the latter panic. Meanwhile, on the other side of the settlement, Frost Cloud has just returned from hunting. He carries with him his prize for the day, as one of the wolfmen tells him that a pretty new female with just one mate visited the tribe today. Frost Cloud quickly turned away from him, saying he was uninterested, and returned to his cave. As soon as he stepped foot in it, he saw a couple of wolf beast men mating with one female. As the group of beastmen continued to mate with the female, she instantly called out to him, seeing that he had returned. This female, currently busy with the other wolf beastmen, turns out to be Frost Cloud's mother. Disgusted at what he saw, Frost Cloud dumped the carcass of his hunt and left his home, thinking all females are amoral, lazy, and greedy. Back to our heroine, White King told her to sit and
guys,
wait
don't
for him
forget
as
to
he
watch
goes
the
hunting. Now that she's finally
Galley
alone, Lin pulls the starter sticks from her cloth bag to try if it works.
My
And
first
it did.
music video.
Currently nursing a small bonfire,
It's very funny.
our heroine thought she could roast the meat White King had given her earlier. As she cooks the meat, our heroine flips through the encyclopedia and learns that the book explains a couple of things in this world. For instance, she learned that spirit beasts are evolved forms of beastkin, which are powerful and formidable in fighting, but compared to spirit beasts, females are rarer. They are responsible for giving birth, but to fulfill this responsibility, they are paired with many mates. Apart from this, Lin also saw the crispy fruit given to her by Old Man Langju. In the book, it said that both its leaves and fruit are used as medicine. If they are eaten, it could reduce fever, but when it's applied to the skin, it can help reduce bleeding and inflammation. Upon knowing this information, Lynn decided to save the crispy fruits Longju gave her since they were pretty helpful, but suddenly, she started to smell something burning, the meat she was cooking. Meanwhile, White King was just a few feet away from the cave where Lynn was staying when he saw the smoke from the fire. Thinking our heroine was in danger, he ran as fast as he could and was dumbfounded when he saw Lynn dirtied with soot from the fire. The white-haired man shouted for Lynn to get out and escape, but our heroine explained that she was the one who started the fire. Hearing this, the White King warned her of the dangers of fire and how it could burn her to ashes, but Lynn only shoved the roasted meat in his mouth. Even White King had to admit that it tasted good, while Lynn was pleased to see him enjoying it, even though
Guys, don't worry, I'm still
She
watching.
also explained to him that she stood watching over the meat, which is why she didn't get burnt, and added that it could also provide warmth. However, White King is busy taking over cooking the meat and tells our heroine that he will be cooking next time instead. Surprisingly, White King is actually good at roasting meat, and he too admitted that meat tastes better when it's cooked. The pair had a hearty dinner, and soon enough it was time for bed. He quickly changed into his beast form and told our heroine that she could lean on him to rest, which she did. She enjoyed it a lot since his fur felt just like a warm and fluffy blanket. As Lynn petted White King's fur, she noticed he was injured and told him she could wrap it up and apply some crispy fruits. He replied that she didn't have to since he could just lick it, and that he should save the crispy fruits for herself later. But Lynn insisted that crispy fruits aren't as important to him since she's her family, so she wants to take care of him. Hearing her say that made White King so touched that he allowed our heroine to patch him up. As soon as she's finished bandaging his wounds, the tiger beast licked Lynn, thinking to himself that he was lucky to meet a cute female like her. The two went to sleep, but Lynn woke up to a weird feeling sometime at night and sensed
She's on
something
her
warm trickling down there.
period.
As she checked to see what was up, she was horrified when she discovered that her period had come. As she moved away, trying to figure out what to do, White King suddenly woke up and told her she was hurt. Our heroine scurried farther away while telling White King she was not, but the man only asked when she got hurt. Moreover, he told Lynn that he could smell blood between her legs and asked her to let him have a look, but our heroine only got more embarrassed at his insistence and denied his request, even calling him a lecherous wolf. White King clarified to Lynn that he's a tiger and not a wolf, once again asking her to let him have a look, but our heroine only told him that this is normal, dying of embarrassment. But more importantly, she's asking herself why she must explain her menstrual period to a man. On the other hand, White King only looks at her with worry, saying that bleeding could cause death, as he remembers his childhood and his brother dying before him. In a quiet voice, White King asked Lynn if she would also leave him behind, and just as quickly, he took our heroine in his arms and told her he'd find a healer. Lynn is shocked at this turn of events, telling him to stop, but the man is hell-bent on saving her. Lynn could only think that nobody had ever died because of menstrual bleeding, as the White King did as he pleased. On another part of the Wolf Tribe settlement, Frostcloud had just finished receiving treatment for his injuries from Longju. The older man can't help but comment how the young beastkin exhausted almost all his medicinal herbs, but Frostcloud only told Longju that he'd get more. Thinking that Frostcloud got it wrong, the healer gave him an earful and said he should focus on hunting and finding a female mate. At this, Frostcloud stiffened, but Longju continued, saying that he shouldn't generalize females and that the old man knows the young beastkin has come to hate them because of his father's death. Moreover, Longju told Frostcloud that not every female is like his mother, but this only angered the young wolfman, prompting him to leave Longju's residence. The healer tried to bring him back to finish applying medicine to him, but could only sigh in worry since it looked like Frostcloud still had no plan of finding a mate. Moreover, the older man wanted to introduce him to our heroine too. As if on cue, the White King comes running to Longju, carrying Lynn in his arms and asking the healer to save her. On the other hand, our heroine holds on tightly to the fabric surrounding her body, embarrassed at her menstrual period, but White King insists that she get checked first. Since she has no choice, Lynn explains that what she's going through is a regular monthly phenomenon, and the bleeding only happens for a few days. Upon hearing what Lynn said, the old man was puzzled, but our heroine could only insist on it unless the healer pushed through and examined her body. He then asked Lin what species she belonged to, which caught her off guard. She decided to tell him that she was human, but Longju had never heard of a human before, only apes. At his answer, Lin was quick to explain that apes are her ancestors, which isn't pretty far from the truth. And lucky for her, the healer didn't ask anymore. He advised White King that she should stay for at least a few days in his residence for observation, which the former appreciated. And to Lin, Longju gave her a couple of red berries to help with her blood, which our heroine received, thankfully. Seeing her reaction, the old man was surprised that Lin was unlike the other females he had come to know. She was not arrogant. Plus, she's gentle and the prettiest female he has ever seen, making her different from the rest. Longju quickly thought he needed to introduce her to Frostcloud, but White King had been observing them all this time, emitting a threatening aura to the healer. To avoid being told off, the healer just told the two of them to get rest and that he'll see her tomorrow. The next day, Lin decided to make a couple of underwear since she had a lot of hides left, but no sooner did she start than she immediately pricked herself with the makeshift needle. Seeing what happened to her, White King decided to take over, and she was surprised that he sews better than her. In no time, he finished his first pair and gave it to our heroine, who had mixed feelings over this pair of underwear. Lin decided to wear what White King made, and was happy with the result. She made a few adjustments, adding padding with water-absorbent leaves, and thought she could use this for a few days until her period was over. On the other hand, White King is pleased with what he's seeing, and is about to touch Lin, but our heroine only swatted his hands away, calling him a lecherous wolf. Tiger King corrected her again by saying he was a tiger, but he quickly changed the subject and told Lin he could make her a pair of shoes with the rest of the hides. Seeing how delicate her feet were back at the market, White King told our heroine that he could make her a pair of shoes. But first, White King needed to measure her feet, so he asked her to sit as he did so.
Her feet
The
are really
white-haired
small.
man commented on how small her feet were and said that he wouldn't need to use a lot of hides, but our heroine was already feeling many things just by his mere touch. After getting her measurements, White King worked on her shoes quickly and produced a pair for our heroine, complete with laces. Lin was overjoyed with her new footwear and asked if he would also like a pair, but White King only told Lin that it could get in the way when he transforms. Our heroine also realized it, but only laughed to herself at the thought of a white tiger wearing shoes. Later in the day, Frostcloud returned with a couple of herbs Longju was looking for. But when he reached the old man's place, he was surprised to see Lin. He quickly grabbed our heroine's arm, angry at the thought that she was stealing from Longju. Moreover, Frostcloud shouted at her for abusing the rules, thinking it won't apply to Lin either. In an angry voice, he asked Lin what she stole and to give it back immediately. Lin was confused by his accusations, telling Frostcloud that her red berries fell in the pot, that she was only reaching out to get them, and that she was not stealing. But Frostcloud will not believe her. Instead, he becomes angrier, calling her a shameless, thieving female. As our heroine asked him to let her go and why he was already accusing her of stealing, she thought he was pretty strong. Unfortunately, he refused to let her go, and she could scream if she wanted to, knowing that males would come and run to protect her, but Frostcloud was the leader of the wolf tribe. He won't stand for her thievery. All the while, Lin thought White King would have beat this wolf man up if he didn't leave to get their bags in the cave. Just then, our heroine exclaimed that healer Longju had returned, distracting Frostcloud, and used this opportunity to sneak an attack on the former, which made him let her go. He was shocked and even angrier now at what she did, but Lin tried to bluff her way out, telling him that she knew Kung Fu. Now Frostcloud is infuriated and threatens to hurt her. Lin ran away because he was serious about the threat, but the wolfman managed to grab her hair. Upon touching it, he was shocked by how soft and smooth it was before suddenly holding Lin's body. Now that he felt her, Frostcloud thought she was clean and different from the lazy and dirty females he usually saw, but our heroine screamed at him, making the wolfman let her go. Trying to regain his composure, the wolf tribe leader told Lin he'd let her go if she apologized to Longju and admitted her fault since she was a first-time offender. When she hears this time, it's Lin's turn to get angry, shouting at him that she didn't do anything wrong and that he's the one who needs to apologize instead. She called him a D-bag and told him to stay away. Frostcloud didn't understand the insult she said, but he got offended and threatened to use his fists this time. That's when Longju appeared and kicked Frostcloud's back. looking at the younger Wolfman in shock at the mere thought of him using his fists to hit a female. The healer thought he wanted to create an opportunity for Frost Cloud with Lyn, but it backfired, and she almost got hit instead. To this, the younger Wolfman only told Longju that she was stealing from him, but at this, the healer threw him out and said that she was recuperating at his place since he was scaring our heroine. Inside, Longju apologized to our heroine and told her to pay him no mind. The healer explained that Frost Cloud is a good guy, and not only is he strong, but he's also the youngest leader in Wolf Tribe history. Lyn told the healer she was not angry, making the old man think she was too kind. But our heroine added that she wouldn't see him again anyway, which made the old man feel bad since it was already over for Frost Cloud. But the healer tried to talk some sense into Lyn, telling her that she could just hit him if she were angry since he could take a beating. But our heroine already had her eyes on White King, who had just returned. Lyn asked him why it took him a while to return, but the white-haired man said he cleaned the hides from yesterday since he remembered our heroine collected a lot of hides. She thanked him, but thought she only did that because of the missions. She told White King he didn't need to do it anymore since she had enough. He agreed, thinking Lyn was pretty mysterious, before procuring a bouquet he picked up for our heroine. She was overjoyed at seeing it, thanking White King, but Longju thought his boy Frost Cloud could not even compare to White King. The pair suddenly told the healer that they would go for a walk, and as they took their time to stroll, Frost Cloud was quietly
Guys, am I
observing them from
a little
above.
bit too
He noticed that Lyn
quiet?
wasn't always angry and aggressive, and that she could be sweet and gentle too, smitten by our heroine's charms. But since he accused her of being a thief, Frost Cloud thought she
Ooh,
must hate him,
somebody's
and
got
would
a
probably not accept the red berries
crush.
he fetched for her. Still, the Wolf Tribe leader threw the bag of red berries where it landed in front of Lyn. White King was the one who picked it up and inspected the contents of the bag, telling our heroine that there were a lot of red berries that must be for her. With the red berries in his hands, White King asked Lyn if she wanted to eat them, but our heroine only shook her head, telling him that he had eaten many of those earlier, and said he should give those to Longju instead. White King just stared at her for a moment before asking if her period had stopped already. Lyn suddenly turned red at the mention of this topic, explaining that she was only on her second day, and that this lasted for 5 days. He asked again to be sure, but Lyn told him nothing bad had happened to her all these years, prompting him to drop the subject. When they returned to Langju's place, the pair gave the bag of red berries to the old man, saying that someone had
So
thrown
all
it to the
those
ground
wolf
as they walked
people,
earlier.
that's
The healer
normal for
immediately knew who it was
girls.
from and gave the bag to Lyn, saying that
Girls,
it was for
I
her.
meant
Then quickly
girls.
turned his back on our heroine, saying he had other things to do.
Material
Back to
girl.
Frost Cloud, the Wolf Tribe leader was sitting on one of the rock cliffs when he heard Longju come and ask him if he was the one who gave the bag of red berries to Lyn.
Wait.
The older man was still in the bushes, but couldn't contain his glee, asking why Frost Cloud gave it to her if he hated females. However, the Wolf Tribe leader feigned ignorance at what the old man said,
I feel like
but
those red
Longju
berries
already
are
knew it was
either
him,
cherries,
because his scent
strawberries,
was all
or
over the bag and the berries.
raspberries.
To this, Frost Cloud reasoned that he just happened to pick the red berries while he was hunting, and insisted that those were for the old man, not for Lyn. Longju conceded and was about to take the red berries back from Lyn when the Wolf Tribe leader stopped him. This confirmed that Frost Cloud is interested in Lyn, making the healer happy, but the young wolfman was not done reasoning, and this time he said it was to make up for wrongfully accusing her and nothing else. Before Longju could ask more, the younger wolfman jumped to end the conversation. Lyn feels fresh and happy 5 days later, now that her period is over. White King immediately told her they should prepare to leave the settlement, but Longju held them back. The old man reasoned that winter was coming, but in his mind, he thought that he finally got Frost Cloud interested in this female, so she needed to stay, or else the younger wolfman could stay single for the rest of his life. In reply to Longju, White King said that winter
What
wouldn't
time you
come
gotta
in
be
another
at
2
school,
months.
girl?
But the healer said that the climate this year
When
is different,
I
adding that
get
winter will come
ready,
2 months early this year too.
finna
Moreover,
go back
Longju told him
jail.
he based this deduction on reading the stars.
Period.
Just then,
I'm
the
your
system's
mom.
voice sounded in Lyn's head, telling her to prepare since winter was coming. Moreover, it also
Why
said
didn't you
that
wash
she
the
would be
dishes
given a
like
couple
I
of
told
missions
you?
she needed to accomplish to receive
Mm.
bountiful rewards. Lyn thought
you
that
just
hearing
told
what the system's voice had to say about
wash the
winter
dishes.
just confirmed what
Oh,
Longju
so
said.
now I'm a
On the other
liar.
hand, White King believes that he can hunt only a few animals since most of them are in hibernation. Plus, the whole forest would be covered in snow. White King said he could travel alone, but Lin was too weak for such a thing, since the pair still haven't said anything. Longju continues to bribe them to stay, saying that they have plenty of food and can provide them with a temporary living place, and they can just leave after winter. White King thinks the healer must have ideas about Lin since he's too generous. But for our heroine's sake, staying in the settlement would be the best choice. He told the healer they would stay, pulling Lin close and thinking her safety was his priority. Upon hearing this, Longju was fired up and offered to help them choose a place to stay. At the mention of this, the system's voice triggered a mission for our heroine. The voice required Lin to prepare a living space since winter is already coming. The place needs to be at least 40 square meters, including a complete set of furniture, a dining table, chairs, beds, and cabinets. Soon enough, the pair searched for a place to settle in the wolf tribe's colony during the winter.
a cave.
Explained that the wolf beastkin dug
They're gonna
wide passageways
build a
inside
house.
the Rocky Mountain. And inside those passageways were even smaller ones that branch off to different caves. As they made their way through one of these passageways, Lin thought it was like a maze and dark too. But suddenly, the darkness is illuminated by various pairs of glowing eyes, followed by a couple of mutters exclaiming about the appearance of Lin in their settlement. White King was quick to pull her to his side, asserting dominance, and soon enough, Longju gave them the signal to dig wherever they wanted, as long as they didn't end up digging into someone else's home. Hearing this, White King transformed and started digging for their cave. Lin made him add more caverns to the first cave he dug, explaining that the big one could be the main bedroom, while the two others would serve as the kitchen and smaller bedroom. It took half a day for White King to dig the caverns Lin requested, and our heroine is pleased to see a few gaps in the ceiling where the light could shine through. They may not have a restroom or drainage system, but he polished the walls at least, so they're pretty smooth. With the rooms done, our heroine told White King that they only needed furniture, and to build them, she told him they could use wood to create them. So the two made their way into the forest to gather wood, but when they returned, they were surprised to see another cave dug just beside theirs, and shortly after, the cave's owner came out. It was Frostcloud. Knowing that Frostcloud is their next-door neighbor annoyed our heroine, who is now busy polishing one of the furniture, but she knows he could build wherever he wants. But White King distracted her from her thoughts by asking what she thought of the bed he made. Our heroine praised and showered him affectionately, while the White King licked her. On the opposite side of the wall, Frostcloud tries his best to cover his ears with what's his hearing from the pair next door. Now he's contemplating why he moved to this place in the first place. But when he saw her and White King make their cave, he had the urge to make one right next to them. This is confusing for him, especially since he hates females. Suddenly silence ensued, followed by rustling sounds. Curious to know what they were doing, Frostcloud peeked and saw that the two were leaving, so he followed suit, thinking they must be going to the forest. It turns out they're still not finished procuring wood for the furniture, and while the two were busy doing those, Frostcloud could only watch from a distance. As the Wolfman sees Lin praise White King, he can't help but compare himself to him. After all, he's pretty strong too, so why didn't she ask for his help instead? Soon the two were about to return home, but White King said it would take them a few trips back and forth since there was a lot of wood to move. At this, our heroine suggested that she'd guard the wood and wait for him as he makes the trip, but White King rejected this. He said he couldn't leave her alone, knowing how dangerous the forest is, so she should just come with him. But Lin insisted on staying behind, reasoning that White King put a lot of effort into collecting these pieces of wood, so she won't allow them to be stolen. The White King couldn't help but concede to her wishes, but before he went, he transformed into his human form and carried Lin atop a high tree. Now, all alone, Lin decided she'll pass the time by reading the encyclopedia she got. Unbeknownst to her, Frostcloud is also at a nearby tree, observing her. He was curious to know what Lin was reading, but more important than that, he was worried that White King left our heroine all alone in the woods, especially since she looked so fragile. He was just thinking, what if she fell from the tree? That's when he noticed a giant mutant purple spider sneaked into Lin. Seeing the mutant spider, Lin panicked and fell from the tree, but luckily Frostcloud was there to catch her. She was surprised at his appearance, asking the Wolfman what he was doing there, but he could only stare at her. Now that he's holding her, he noticed that she's soft and small. Unlike the other females, her smell is different too. Our heroine quickly pushed him away as he started to sniff her and tried to put some distance between them by backing away but also thanking him. But soon enough, the Wolfman cried out and told her to watch out as the mutant spider tried to attack Lynn. He was able to pull her to safety and told her to get behind, and in an instant, he transformed into his beast form. He was able to subdue the mutant spider, but Lynn was busy looking at Frostcloud, enamored with his beautiful silver fur. She thanked him again, sincerely this time, but the beastkin only scoffed at her words, and instead of thanking him with her words, he told Lynn that he should let him have his way with her instead. Our heroine got annoyed at what he said and told him they're even now since he was rude to her when they met for the first time. But the Wolfman is still petty, replying sarcastically to our heroine, which made her storm out in anger. As soon as she was out of sight, Frostcloud lay on the grass, the poison from the spider spreading from his paws. He never thought he'd die at the hands of a spider and is already feeling ashamed if his tribe learned of this. As he was dozing in and out of consciousness, he opened his eyes to see Lynn return. Frostcloud puts up a front, asking Lynn if he changed her mind about letting him have his way with her while he hid his poisoned paw. Our heroine reasoned that she only returned because she retrieved something, but even she noticed he was feeling unwell. At the first sign of concern, Frostcloud lashed out, telling her that he hates females, but Lynn only asked if he was poisoned. He still won't tell her and only snarled at our heroine, so she turned his back and walked away. As soon as she's gone, Frostcloud lays his head in the grass, thinking that all females are cold and heartless as he continues to feel worse from the poison. As he was dozing out of consciousness, he thought females are unappreciative even though you save them. He remembered how his father died because of a female, and the wolf tribe leader never felt he'd follow in his father's footsteps. Just then, rustling sounds could be heard, and Lynn returned with a certain plant. She noticed that Frostcloud was now unconscious and was on the brink of death, but lucky for him, our heroine had just read about the herbs that could detoxify the herbs from the mutant spiders. She starts treating him, and in a second, Frostcloud wakes up from the pain of his wound just as Lynn continues to treat him. He couldn't believe his eyes. The female returned. But he also thought that he must be hallucinating, but our heroine saw that he was now conscious, asking him how many fingers she was holding up. Frostcloud didn't answer this, but instead asked Lynn if she had saved him, which the latter affirmed. This made him think that she was really not like the other females. She also told him this makes them even now since he saved her earlier, so it's her turn this time. The Wolfman could only utter a simple thank you, but Lynn was mocking him, pretending that she didn't hear what he said, but Frostcloud only shouted that she was an idiot. At this, the two started bickering, with Lynn telling him that he's more of an idiot than she is, but he said he never asked for help in the first place. Angry at how ungrateful he was, Lynn thought she shouldn't have saved this Wolfman. Just then, White King and several other Wolfmen appeared, asking them what had happened. The Wolfmen saw the mutant spider's carcass and said it had a poisonous claw and fang. White King thought it was good that Frostcloud came, since Lynn would have ended up as spider food if not. He quickly put his arm around our heroine, holding her close as White King expressed his thanks to Frostcloud. Moreover, he told the young wolf tribe leader he would be there if Frostcloud needed help, but Frostcloud already knows White King is warning him not to get any ideas about Lynn, although it may look like he's thanking him on the surface. Moreover, the Wolfmen White King brought with him are the ones who already have their own females, so they won't make a move on our heroine, which is a very cunning move. Soon enough, they all started walking back to the settlement, with one of the Wolfmen even offering to assist Frostcloud, which the latter rejected flatly. Back home, Lynn has just finished piecing together the last piece of furniture, happy that there's natural gum available, or else she wouldn't have finished it. Now, they have a bed, and it feels just like home. As soon as she was done, the system's voice sounded and congratulated our heroine for finishing the first series of missions. Soon enough, she was rewarded. Our heroine was granted a pot and spatula this time. She was so happy
Am I
that
too
now
quiet
she could make
again?
stir-fry. On the other hand, White King looked at the objects curiously, asking her what they were made of. She answered that those were made of iron, and now she could cook food for him properly, without burning them this time. Even White King noticed the change the pot brought since the food smelled pretty good. Soon enough, our heroine had just finished cooking stew and offered the first bowl to White King. who immediately said it tasted good. But Lynn also said that she'd share the food with Frostcloud next door, saying that she saved him, even if he was annoying. At this, White King told Lynn that he'd give him the food instead, which our heroine quickly agreed to. In front of Frostcloud's door, the wolf tribe leader answered grumpily. The taller man handed him the bowl of stew Lynn made, saying they wanted to share some with him. Upon hearing this, Frostcloud's ears perked up, but White King quickly turned back and returned to their cave. Soon enough, White King and Lynn finished eating dinner, with our heroine sighing in contentment while the former thanked her for the delicious stew. Seeing his beauty, she can't help but comment how handsome he looked, to which the White King only answered that he's glad she seems to like it. Getting shy at his reply, Lynn quickly changed the topic, saying that they should sleep since it was late, and that's when White King proposed that they should sleep together. Lynn and White King shared the bed that night, lying side by side, with his arms around her waist. Our heroine can't help but feel nervous since this is the first time she sleeps with a man, no tiger in her bed. Before they ended up in this position, White King told her that their home only had a wooden door that was easy to open with the slightest effort. So, if someone comes at night with bad intentions, he tells her he won't be around to protect her. Lynn reasons out that this is the Wolf Tribe's territory, but White King wouldn't allow it. He had to be sure of her safety, especially since she almost became spider food today. Our heroine was just about to counter-argue this, but he asked her if she hated being with him, or maybe she was displeased with his body, and Lynn was quick to catch on that he was seducing her. However, our heroine tried to stand firm, but White King was still trying to get her. Our heroine ultimately decided to sleep outside, thinking that at least she had time to react if something happened. As today's weariness made her sleepy, Lynn's eyes widened in shock since she felt something poking her back. But because it's too dark, she can't see anything when she suddenly hears White King moan. Lynn gave a shout and quickly moved away, but the man held her in place and started to lick her. As she panicked, he assured our heroine that he likes being held by her. But Lynn said she'd just sleep next door. Upon hearing this, White King held her tight and asked if she liked Frostcloud. Lynn was surprised by how White King touched her, while the other could only think that our heroine had no idea how tempting she was. To answer his question earlier, Lynn told White King that she doesn't like Frostcloud and is just going to sleep in the other bedroom. But he didn't believe her, saying that he thinks Lynn likes Frostcloud a lot. As he said this, the white-haired man continued to touch Lynn, asking her this time why she had tried hard to save the Wolf Tribe leader earlier. But our heroine could only insist that she didn't like him. Moreover, his actions scare our heroine, but he tries to play it off, saying he doesn't understand what she should be scared of. In her mind, Lynn thinks that she feels like a plaything in White King's mind, but at the same time, there's the urge to lose herself in the sensation. Next door, Frostcloud could only sit and silence, frustrated that he couldn't block the sounds he was hearing because of how sensitive his ears are, and that's when he heard White King ask our heroine if she liked the Wolfman. As he heard her say that she didn't like him, Frostcloud could only hang his head low and say her name. The next day, our heroine woke up with a start and instantly remembered what she and White King had done last night. However, she also noticed her body was already clean, and her lower garments were brand new. She flushed at the memories of last night, thinking that they almost went all the way, but she got distracted by the sudden appearance of White King. He brought her meat stew for breakfast, which our heroine accepted. As he gave her the bowl, he also told Lynn that he'd go out to hunt later, so if she wanted something, she could just tell him and he'll bring it later. Moreover, White King also asked a female
All
from
the way
Wolf
where?
tribe named Muxiang to take care of her. He assured her they would get along.
Where you guys
since
going?
The former was the same
Can I
age as
come?
Lynn. But hearing all these, our heroine started
Are you
to
taking her
get
to
nervous.
daycare?
Lynn became
Is she
worried at the
sick?
mention
Are you
of the
taking her
hunt,
to the
since
doctor?
White King mentioned earlier that the hunt would take 10 days. So now she can't help but worry if she will be all right by herself in a strange tribe. She asked him if she could come with him this time, and if he was really leaving her alone. But White King told him hunting is dangerous and safer for her to stay within the settlement. Our heroine still tries to come with him, but he patiently tells her that he and many other beastkin are hunting in preparation for the early winter, which is very dangerous for them. Food shortages and extreme colds are why many beastkin are away every winter. So to avoid these problems, he and many other wolfmen will hunt deep within the forest to find more
We gotta
food
run,
to
we
stock
gotta run,
up.
we gotta run, we
This is
gotta
why it will
run,
take
we
them
gotta
more than
run,
10
run,
days to
run,
return.
run.
Moreover, Many more
We gotta
dangerous
run, we gotta
creatures
run, we gotta
live
run,
deep
we
within the
gotta run,
forest,
run, we
even
gotta run,
scarier than the
run,
mutant spider,
run, run,
which is why
run,
he
run,
won't risk
run,
Lynn's
run,
safety.
run,
Our heroine
run
understood what he said, but is
away.
still saddened and thinks she would only be dead weight to White King if she
Run,
went with them for the
run,
hunt. He tried to
run
comfort her by
away. We
hugging
gotta
her
run,
and
we
telling
gotta
our
run, we
heroine she
gotta
was his
run,
female, so she was the
run,
most important to him. She returned his hug, asking him to come back safely, but in her mind, Lynn just realized that White King became the person she relied on the most when she first transmigrated into this world. White King tells her again that Muxiang will take care of and keep her company while he's away. He believes that they would get along since they're roughly the same age,
Muxiang.
but White King can't help but notice Lynn's disappointed look. He caressed her, saying that he would bring back whatever she wanted. And our heroine quickly pulled out the encyclopedia and told him to bring back fennel and star anise. She explained that these plants make food tastier, which he promptly agreed to. He also entrusted the bone knife to Lynn so she could use it for protection and hugged her again. But when he was trying to cope with a feel or two, Lynn pushed him back when they heard a knock on their door. As the two turned to look, they saw a female member of the wolf tribe. It was Muxiang. The female asked White King where he managed to snag such a cute mate, and the former was just
She's
smitten with how
hot.
cute Lynn was. He asked Muxiang to care for our heroine as White King walked out the door. Outside, many wolfmen are already preparing to leave, and White King shifts to his beast form, thinking that he needs to bring enough food so Lynn can safely survive the upcoming winter. Back at home, Lynn asked Muxiang if they could go outside since there were still so many things she did not
We
know
gotta
about
go, we
this
gotta go,
world.
we gotta go, we gotta
Muxiang
go, we
readily
gotta
took her
go,
hand
go,
since the
go,
other
go.
female was happy also to go outside and take a walk. Outside, Lynn soon noticed that only the elderly and young wolfmen were left at
I
work, which left
ran
her
out
wondering
of
where the
time.
females were.
Gotta go, we
But
gotta
soon
go, we
enough,
gotta
she
go, we
found
gotta
them
go, we
lazing
gotta
around
go,
and eating to their heart's
go.
content, thinking that they really do not do any work around here. This made her believe that if all she did was laze around, she might also turn like them. Out of the blue, our heroine asked Muxiang if she could teach Lynn how to tan hides. The female wolf was surprised to hear that and said that she could teach her, but here, the females don't need to do any labor. They just need to give birth. Our heroine was horrified to hear that and told the others she wanted to do something since she was bored. Muxiang reluctantly agreed, so the two went to the nearby river. Muxiang first taught our heroine how to clean the hides, where they spent the day scrubbing it
I found
upstream,
something that
much
can
to the other
heal.
wolf men's surprise. It was unusual to see females working, so they crept closer to get a better look at the
Got
ladies.
her
The
here.
wolfmen were pleased to see them,
What if
since
I
it's
just
rare
place
to see
it
females,
right
especially
there?
dainty and pretty ones, by the riverside. So they decided to talk to them.
Okay, it's okay
But
now.
before the two wolfmen could go near Muxiang and Lynn, Frostcloud appeared behind them with a threatening aura and pulled on their tails. Moreover, the young wolf tribe chief dragged the two away from the ladies,
that
and
must
while all this
hurt.
commotion was happening, Muxiang soon took notice of them. She asked our heroine if she knew who Frostcloud was, but Lynn answered that she didn't really know him, and yet Muxiang pointed out that the tribe leader kept on staring at her from behind the trees. Lynn was already annoyed at the mention of Frostcloud, but she became even more upset when Muxiang said he was coming their way. As soon as he reached the two, Frostcloud asked Lynn what she was doing, but our heroine just snapped at him, telling him to mind his own business. But the wolf tribe leader was already thinking about our heroine's soft and delicate voice from last night, and soon enough, his body started to react. Before the ladies could find out, Frostcloud decided to walk away, but Muxiang noticed it all. In fact, she was pretty amused since she had known him for hating females, and yet here he was, reacting to Lynn, which is a pretty rare sight. Soon enough, Lynn finished washing the hides, but now she's facing a new problem, carrying them. Since they are much heavier when wet, our heroine struggled a lot, but lucky for her, Frostcloud came and picked them up quickly, carrying them for her. Walking behind him, Lynn thought that maybe Frostcloud wasn't so bad after all, but soon enough, the wolf tribe leader made a snide remark about how useless females are, since even she couldn't carry such a small load like this. The two continued to bicker back and forth, while Muxiang could only look at him in frustration. She has always known Frostcloud as a fierce leader, but in front of Lynn, he's acting like a moron. Just like that, the day passed and the sun soon started to set. Lynn was just about to make dinner when she remembered that Frostcloud still hadn't returned the bowl from the stew White King gave him last night, so she went to pick it up, and no sooner had she called his name than the wolf tribe leader, popping out in his beast form. She was startled to see him like this, but Frostcloud only said it was because he was sleeping. She decided not to bicker with him and just asked him to return the bowl from last night, but he pretended not to know. But Lynn was intent on getting it back. Reluctantly, Frostcloud returned it to her, and our heroine quickly returned to their home, slamming the door shut. Meanwhile, Frostcloud threw a fit in his cave since that bowl was the only thing she gave him, and he was treasuring it. Soon, our heroine had just finished cooking the stew for dinner, and she instantly thought of White King, wishing he was here right now. She remembered again just how much she had relied on him. But Lynn caught herself in time before she could start to feel sad. Next door, Frostcloud was already sleeping when he immediately sat up at the aromatic smell he sniffed, and as he stepped outside, he saw a bowl of meat stew in front of his cave. He quickly gobbled it up, happily thinking that it came from Lynn. Soon the days passed, and our heroine continued to tan hides, which she discovered is pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. As she scrubbed them in the riverside, she saw several figures approaching the settlement from afar. It's White King and the rest of the Wolfmen. Our heroine was overjoyed upon his return and came running to hug him. As he promised, White King brought all the plants Lynn requested, impressing her and making her happy. She pointed out that the hillberries juice is salty, which they could use as a substitute for salt, but White King had no idea what salt is. But our heroine made him understand soon enough when she started cooking. He noticed that the food smelled even better this time, and soon enough, she had 3 bowls of food ready. Lynn told White King that while he was gone, she learned how to tan hides, and that Frostcloud was a great help to her. So, to thank Frostcloud, she prepared the bowl of food and asked White King if he could give it to the wolf tribe leader next door. He did so, and just as White King reached the entrance to Frostcloud's cave, the Wolfman quickly opened the curtains with a smile, thinking that our heroine would be the one to deliver it. So you can imagine his disappointment when he saw White King was the one carrying the bowl of stew. The Wolfman quickly asked why he gave the food, but White King answered that Lynn asked him to do it. Annoyed at the other's return, Frostcloud reasoned that Lynn should be the one to deliver the food, since it was her that the wolf tribe leader helped. But in response, White King only told him they would be leaving once winter was over, and warned Frostcloud not to get any ideas. In response, the Wolfman got angry and told White King to mind his own business. Back at home, Lynn wondered why White King was taking so long, but soon enough, the system voice sounded in her head, tasking her to gather enough food for the winter. When she asked how much food was enough, the voice didn't answer.
Oh, it's
which
almost
made her
finished.
pissed. As soon as White King returned, our heroine told White King that they
This
needed to
video
gather
is
enough
so
food for the winter.
long.
The only excuse she
You
could
see
come
how
up
much
with was
time
bringing
I've
up
been on
Long
this?
Jew's reminder to
I've been
prepare
on
extra
this
food for the
so
upcoming winter.
long.
Thankfully, White King didn't question it and told our
Why
heroine
are
that
they
he would
so
gather as much food as she wanted.
long?
Gazing
They're
at her
like
affectionately as he said this,
hours.
Lynn couldn't help but be enamored, especially seeing how firm his muscles were up
They're
close.
so long.
She was already feeling it, and as if he had read her thoughts, White King asked Lynn if she wanted to wash up so they could go to sleep already. There is still a lot of development in the story that Lynn will soon discover.
Now we gotta
but
wait
this
for
is how the segment of the
57:20.
manga ends.
Come
If
on,
you liked the story and want us to
57:20.
continue, please leave a comment down below with the name Lynn.
Okay, now
In the previous
part
part
2.
of the story, White King finally returned to the Wolf Tribe, and after thanking Frostcloud, he told the Wolf Tribe chief that they would leave after winter passed. However, a new mission is given to Lynn while the 2 beastmen talk, but for now, she may have to spend a steamy night with White King. Continuing with the story.
Okay, guys, unfortunately, the video will have to end because it's taking too long. So, bye guys, love you.